I can.
Because I'd like to put it up on our channel with my credits in the front and the back, like I do.
Oh, you both may be able to record on this.
Yeah, I'm
Did you
recording
have
now. Yeah.
You're
Oh, he's
recording now.
recording
Okay,
and-
great.
And you are
So
too?
we're all
Yeah,
we're all good. What time is it in Germany, Paul?
3 in the morning.
It's what in the morning?
3.
3 in the morning. See, good time to get up early and greet the day.
Seems like I just went to bed.
We are ever grateful for you to join us for this. This is it's a great opportunity for everybody here. So I'm going to start. Welcome everybody to the second Tuesday Hypnosis Group meeting for September. It's hard to remember what month we're in with this, but we're here and we have Paul Aurand for tonight's meeting. He's a fellow that I've known for quite a few years. Been a good warm friend. He and his wife. I had the honor to marry them over in Germany 10 years ago.
Yep.
About
A little longer.
in that, yeah, a little bit longer than that. And they're just the most loving, wonderful, compassionate couple that I know. And they travel all over the world teaching other people about the various types of hypnosis. He'll explain in there. But recently, this fella has written a book called Essential Healing. And that's where I'm going to move over to share the screen. Right here. This is his book. So jot down this information really, really quick. He'll probably tell you how to get it too. You could also search on Amazon. That's how I bought it, was on Amazon. It's a great book. Looks at hypnosis and healing, and that's what we need. And so there it is. I'm going to stop the share now. Paul Aurand, that's what you have to remember, Essential Healing. That's his book. And if you look at he's got Eben Alexander is, did the forward to it. So that's good. And then Bernie Siegel, he wrote a little clip up there too. And all really high people in their fields. And Paul is right up there with them, maybe beyond, I think. Anyway, I want to welcome you all here tonight. I'm glad to see you all here for tonight's meeting, and I will turn it over to Paul. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. And it's so nice to connect with everybody. I feel like I'm back at the conference, back with my family. That's where Sophia and I met, was at the Mid-America Hypnosis Conference. And that was always a special time for us to come back to and remember our meeting and connect with people that knew us when we came together and really feel like family. And it's so nice to see all of you here today. It's really sweet. And I hope I stay awake enough to do this. I think I will. I'm excited to be here. I had a really long day yesterday and slept for about an hour and a half before this. So hopefully my mind functions properly. I had a really interesting session yesterday that I did the soul essence, the essential healing work with. And this guy, when he was 15, was in a really terrible accident. He was a skiing accident and almost lost both of his legs. And he was in hospital for 6 months with multiple surgeries, 22 surgeries altogether on his legs. And it took him 2 years to learn how to walk again after all the surgeries and repairs that they did. And he came out of that as a really serious drug addict, addicted to the painkillers that they'd given him for all those months. And he really lost almost 10 years of his life being that ill, being addicted to drugs and learning to walk again. And he came out of there having lost all of his friends, some of his family too. It's like a big piece of his life missing. And one of the things he came away from all of that with, besides all the pain and the drug addiction, was I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. It's my fault. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And feeling really guilty about it and really upset with himself, really mad at himself. And yeah, didn't really know how to overcome this. And so I didn't really work on the drug addiction with him. What I did work with him on was a new self-image, really reconnecting with his core self, his authentic self, who he really is. Because that was a big thing he was saying. I don't really know who I am. I feel like a fraud. I feel like I'm not enough. I have social anxiety. I can't go into social situation without using drugs to feel more comfortable. And it wasn't just about the pain, but the emotional pain and the anxiety. And the self-image he came away from this whole situation with was, it's my fault, I'm not enough, right? And so we began this journey that I take people on. Rather than spending years doing psychoanalysis and working through all the different issues, my approach really, using hypnosis, altered state, and expanded consciousness, and objective observer state, is to take him through those layers towards the core self, towards his authentic self. This was our second session. The first time we worked together, he got to his the 15-year-old that felt so guilty and responsible, wrong place, wrong time, it's my fault. But yesterday he got to the much younger self, the inner child, really, the part of ourselves that's much closer to the authentic self, towards the original self, before all the things of life that occurred. And that younger self was spunky and curious and happy and wise. A lot of the things that he'd been, well, really missing in his life. He had some conscious interference, and I want to talk about that in a little bit, because I think that conscious interference is one of the big things that we're really working with when we do hypnosis with someone. So the inner child, he didn't get to the core self. I think in our next session he will, but he made connection with this younger self that's very close to the core self and got some good reconnection with that inner joy that he's been missing for so long. And so the essential healing method that I've developed is really a process of working to go through the different, I call them different layers, to go through first the protection, right? This guy's mind is so active. And I'm sure conducting sessions for people, that's one of the challenges you run into, isn't it? Where mental mind is so present. His mental mind was so strong and helped him survive, right? It got him through all of this. Even addicted to painkillers, he's functioning, he's working, he's getting through life somehow, because this mental mind really clamped down and has worked so hard to keep him going. And as soon as I began hypnosis with him the first time, mental mind's like, no way am I letting go. Bad things will happen if I do that. If I let go, I'm going to feel pain beyond any threshold I can survive. If I let go, that pain is going to kill me. I can't afford to experience any more pain than I've already experienced in my life. Now, if I make an enemy of that mental mind, there's no way it's going to step back. I can count all the numbers I want to count, but that mind is saying, no, this is too risky, this is too dangerous, I'm not going to let it happen. So in this process, one of the main things I do is, instead of trying to force that mind to step aside, I facilitate a kind of parts therapy with that mental mind. I had him dialogue with his mind. Well, what are you concerned will happen if you step back, if you let go? You're going to feel all that pain, and I can't let that happen because it's going to be too overwhelming. Right? So what do you do when mental mind won't let go? Have them talk with it. The first thing I find that's most successful is thank it. Thank you, mental mind. I have them dialogue with it. Thank you, mind, for getting me through all of that. Thank you for locking down. Thank you for being so strong, right? There's an internal sort of rigidity, a kind of pushing through all this. And without that, he never would have learned to walk again, I don't think. He never would have made it to his 30s. So thank the mind. And guess what happens when you thank these resistant parts? They begin to soften. They begin to step back. They begin to relax a bit. It took some convincing, but mental mind let him go deeper. It stepped back enough. And you know what? It steps in occasionally during the session, right? Something comes up and it's like, oh, I'm not so sure about that. So it's ever present. Talk with it again, thank it, recognize its concern, and say, you know, it's really important for me to get here to reconnect with these parts of myself. Please step, and it steps back again. And then we continue the journey. So once mental mind steps back, and how do I get the mental mind to step back besides dialoguing with it? One of the first things I do after having the person focus on their breath, right, and being really present. So this guy is dissociative, right? I think a lot of the clients we see that have had a lot of mental, emotional, and physical pain have learned to disconnect. They've learned to anesthetize themselves, right? If it's not with a drug or alcohol or something else, they've learned to dissociate. They've learned to disconnect from their body. So having them connect in the very beginning with his body and start to feel his feelings, as you'll see with people, it's kind of the opposite of what we do with hypnosis. I call it presencing, right? There's this dissociative quality to hypnosis. So in the beginning, I have them start to associate, to feel into their body. He hasn't been there for a long time. He's been on pain meds for over 10 years, right? First prescribed and then self-prescribed. So as he connects, he starts to notice his feelings. But even before that, just begin to observe your mind. Notice what it is that you hear your mind saying. I think it's one of the most powerful, one of the most powerful things that we can achieve in hypnosis is the objective observer state. You're not trapped by your mind. You're no longer just your thinking mind, but you become the observer of your mind. I don't know. I must have practiced hypnosis for 15 or 20 years before I really realized that one of the primary things that we're doing with hypnosis is expanding consciousness and becoming the objective observer. And when we can become the objective observer from this higher perspective, we can observe our own thinking mind. And so he started to listen to what it was his mind was telling him. Oh no, if you do this, something bad is going to happen. I'm not going to let go because you're going to feel so much pain. I can count, I can do whatever I want to do. If that mind is locked down like that, I don't think we're going to go anywhere. So having him dialogue with the mind, telling him I really want to do this, and exploring the mind's concerns, thanking the mind will most often soften, step back. And once we get past mental mind, then we come to heart. Now, you all know, if you've heard me speak before, that I talk about the heart center, and not the physical organ, but the heart center, the center of our feelings and our emotions. I talk about it as the doorway to the inner world. And it really is. If you watch your client as you're working with them, you'll see them throughout the session moving from thinking mind, analyzing, understanding, trying to figure out, to moving into a more feeling state. And one of the magical things that we do with hypnosis is just that. We move someone out of thinking, rational, analytical mind, and we move them into feeling state. Feeling state is not so associated with rational, analytical mind. Mind has opinions about our feelings, but it's not a feeling thing. It analyzes them. The subconscious mind, as you probably all learned on your first or second day of your hypnosis training, is that the emotions, the feelings, are associated with subconscious mind. And if you move someone from thinking, analyzing state into feeling state, guess what's happening? They're going into hypnosis. Not unconscious, but feeling. Mental mind's analyzing, what am I feeling? But heart center is where these feelings live, in the body. So I moved him from thinking about all of this stuff, how can I overcome this situation, to feeling. Now there's a lot of painful feelings there, both physical pain, constant from the leg injuries, and a lot of emotional pain as a result of losing many years of his life, and being rather unsuccessful, especially in relationships. And so once he moves from thinking into feeling, that pain will most often come up. Pain's not the only thing, but that's usually what presents first, some of the trauma, right? And what happens when someone dips into that pain? They retreat to the safety of the analytical mind. I could watch him dive in and pull out, dive in and pull out. Watch for it when you're working with someone. They dive into their feelings and emotions. They start to talk about them, and it becomes painful. It becomes difficult, maybe scary. And so they naturally step back. They retreat from that to the safety of the analytical mind. You know what happens when someone does that? When they touch that pain and they retreat to the safety of the mind begins to spin. It goes faster and faster, thinking, analyzing, trying to figure out what to do. It's like the energy goes from chest and feeling heart to mind and all of this. And some will even pop out. They really dissociate them, right? Watch for that pattern when you're working with someone. Bring them into their body. They touch the hurtful things, the painful things from the past, and they'll often pop out. So you have to be aware when you're doing this to watch for that pattern. Even better, make them aware of it themselves. He had no idea that as he approached his pain from the past, that he would go back into mind, more anxiety, spinning mind, and actually then begin to dissociate. If you'll make your client aware of this movement, this process, it's much easier for them to begin to realize when it's happening, take a few moments to breathe, to be present in their body, to ground themselves, to start to go back into the pain or into the feelings. Now, one of the big things that happens in this work when we're moving from mind to heart is that we all have some form of heart protection, right? I think we've all experienced different things in our life that we felt hurt by. And especially when we're younger, we learn to protect ourselves in some way. We build a kind of heart shield or heart protection. It takes time to build it, but I think most of us have some form of heart protection in place. Now, in the world that we live in these days, I suppose that it's necessary to have some protection around our heart so that we don't get hurt again. But having a really substantial heart protection in place not only keeps us safe, But when love does come our way, it's very hard for us to let it in because heart's protected, right? And as we have and go through daily life with this heart protection, it tends to hold in the old hurts from the past. One of the biggest things I think that we do with hypnosis is that we help people to express their feelings. We help them to release the stored emotions in their bodies. They get triggered by various experiences. So that was one of the next things I did with him, is that he had really substantial heart protection, and I had him objectify it. I had him describe to me if that heart protection were an object, if it had a size or shape or a color or a texture, how would it appear? He said, well, it's like a big gray brick on my chest. It's like this heavy pressure there, right? So I had him really connect with this heavy gray brick that was making pressure on his chest. How's it feel to have it there? Well, it's kind of safe, but it really is holding me back. It's really uncomfortable. We don't just rip it off. I didn't make some suggestion, oh, the brick is magically exploding, or we're going in with a jackhammer and jackhammering it apart. I had him dialogue with it. I had him say, brick, thank you. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for helping me survive all those years of pain. And the brick began to soften. And then he found his way around or through the brick under it, really. As the brick softened, he could get in to his heart. And once he got in, some of the first feelings he expressed were not love. Some will feel great love, like Don expresses all the time. He found this huge reservoir of painful feelings and emotions. And it's that reservoir of these painful feelings and emotions that was driving much of his behavior. It was causing him difficulty in relationships. It was causing physical pain in his body. And it was fueling his need for ever higher doses of pain medications and other kinds of drugs that he was taking. Right? So it's easy to say, don't do that, don't take this, go to rehab or something. Maybe he needs rehab. But he's been through rehab and he was off the drugs and back on them again, because the internal pain that he carries, this reservoir of pain, was never addressed. He was never able to externalize or express this pain that he's been carrying. So I helped him get in touch with some of this pain. It was really scary for him because it feels so overwhelming. So making it doable for the person, I think, is very, very important. Well, you don't have to just rip it open and let it gush. You can let it out a little bit by little by little. You can do it. You can approach it, let some out, and stop again. Mental mind was really on alert. Oh boy, what's going to happen if we really get into those feelings? So he had to comfort his mental mind. He had to tell his mental mind, we can do this a little at a time. It doesn't have to be an explosion. Find a way to make it safe for the person to get in touch with their feelings and let them know that they can do it gradually, little by little. Those stored feelings are really the next layer. You have the protection. Once you get past that, you can go into the feelings. Hey, Larry, it's nice to see you. Great, thanks for coming. So once he identified some of the feelings he carried, then he could begin to release them. This is where you use your guided imagery, right? Or maybe better said, this is where you use their imagery. What's all that pain look and feel like? So he describes it to me like this black, he has depression too, right? From all this. It looks like this heavy black tar. So he began to release it, began to let it go. And then part of him comes aware, well, if I let go of all my pain, who am I? What will I be? I won't have anything left. He really identifies with the pain that he's experienced for all these years. And there's a concern, if I don't have my pain, if I'm not my pain, who am I? What will I be? Right? So for me, this is what I call the glue. This is the hook. This is the thing that keeps him stuck in his pain. If I don't have my pain, that's all I know who I am. If I don't have my pain, I won't exist. I don't have any idea who I am. And that's really the main reason he came to me, is he has all this social anxiety because he doesn't know who he is anymore. He lost touch with that, right? So as he began to release the pain, you can do it gradually, little by little, and just reassuring him, there's much more to you than your pain. Beneath these layers of protection and pain, there's much more to you, right? And so guiding him deeper through those layers of pain, he first made contact with another part of himself. So this is really parts therapy, right? At this point, he made contact with a 15-year-old that in his belief system was in the wrong place at the wrong time, who had been a real stubborn hardhead. And as a result, had this terrible accident because he was somewhere he shouldn't have been, right? He made this big mistake. So we go from thinking mind to feeling. One of the big things we're working with is stored emotion. And now that we got through some of the emotion, the next thing we step into is beliefs, right? I think in this work, there are three primary things that we're looking at: stored emotion, beliefs that are limiting, that are harmful, and survival strategies. It's what you learn to do to stay safe and to get love and acceptance, right? So once we get to the survival strategy, we can work with that. It's my fault. I'm not enough. I was too much of a hardhead and I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's my fault that I got injured like this, almost lost my legs. Right? This is an image he formed of himself. And the survival strategy we got to pretty quickly after that. He was one of 11 children, the last one, the youngest one, right? How much love and attention did he get? Right? And what did he learn to do to survive that? He learned to be the stubborn guy that he thought was the reason that he had this terrible accident, because he was so stubborn, he got sent off to school outside of the country and then had this terrible accident. And he learned to survive by being stubborn. So this was the reframe for him. His stubbornness, he thought, was his problem that caused the accident. But if he hadn't been so darn stubborn, he never would have survived 22 surgeries, 6 months in hospital, and 2 years learning to walk again. So suddenly he sees this deficit, this problem of being stubborn. Oh, that was really what got me through all this. That's why I'm 30 some years old today and still alive, is because I was so darn stubborn. What a reframe. Not that I gave him, but he realized in this more objective observer state, right? And the survival strategy that he developed by not having a lot of love or attention when he was younger, the survival strategy he developed from after this terrible accident, was to disconnect, to numb himself, to not feel. And here I am asking him to feel again. Here I am challenging this survival strategy that got him through most of his life, right? So instead of trying to ask him to give up that survival strategy, instead of really pushing it, acknowledging that that got him through and that now he can do it in a different way. So I continued bringing him deeper past the 15-year-old, right? And going towards what I call soul essence, towards that authentic self. Now, not everyone gets there the first time, as he didn't the first time. They run into the traumas. They run into the different parts that are operating within themselves. So after he made contact with the 15-year-old, he went deeper and he ran into, well, it's what I call the wonder child. It's a younger part of himself that's much closer to the authentic self. He ran into this little boy that was spunky, that was curious, that was happy. It's a long time since this guy felt happy. He suffered with depression and anxiety, drug addiction. He was so surprised. It was such a beautiful moment to see him reconnect with that authentic self, to see him reconnect with this, he said, even silly, right? Silly, playful, childish self. Another part of him that helped him survive woke up in that moment and said, oh no, if I become this playful child, if I go back to that state, I won't be able to manage my life. I won't be able to function, right? And so I had this achiever, this protector self, really, right? He called it the get it done self, get it done, right? The get it done self said, no, we got to keep going. We got to survive, got to achieve, got to make up for all those lost years. I don't have time to deal with this child, this needy child. Child wasn't really so needy. The child self, the wonder child self, is full of great wisdom and had amazing advice for him, as well as joy, playfulness, spontaneity, curiosity that's been missing from his life. Well, what will happen if I reconnect with this? So my work as the facilitator here is to say, well, you don't have to choose between one or the other. These two parts need to become allies. They have to begin to get to know each other. So I facilitated the dialogue between this get it done self that has no time for feelings, no time for joy, no time for anything, just survive, to begin to dialogue with the child self. At first it was reluctant. No, I don't want to talk to him. You must have seen that, right? Facilitating inner child work. Sometimes the adult self is like, nah, this is a waste of time. Don't want to do that. So I pushed a bit to facilitate that, and they began to dialogue. And the child was pretty, well, I guess I could say stubborn. There was this aspect of his character already at that very young age. So from my perspective, this is already beginning to reveal the authentic self, not the things that have happened to him through his lifetime, but what he came in with, who he really is at his core. And this is such a tearful moment to watch him start to remember, oh, this really is who I am. This is really what I'm about. This is my true nature. And I think that this is one of the greatest things that we can do as a facilitator of these sessions, is to help someone remember who they really are. He's not his pain. He's not his drug addiction. He's not a guy with legs that he can barely move, right? He's truly this playful, happier, curious, as he describes, spunky self. And so I took him through the process of connecting with this child self, his original self, his more authentic self, and inviting that part back into his life, but inviting that part back into his body, inviting that part back into his consciousness, back into his psyche. it's in process. It's not finished. I'll see him again in about 10 days. But these two parts are in dialogue now. These two parts that are have been in great conflict for a long time. And my hope for next time is to work with that child self that then knows where that soul essence, that real authentic core self is, and make contact with that. And then begin him on that process of not just making contact with that core self, but to bring that core self back into his being so it can begin to emerge. What I see is a beautiful process of once someone's made contact with this core self, it happened for me, is that it begins to break through those layers. It begins to emerge from hiding. You know, I think for myself, I had a pretty unpleasant, unfriendly stepfather. So when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, some part of me said, no, you're not getting this. You're not going to scare this out of me. You're not going to steal this from me. You're not going to tarnish this. I really protected myself from losing that, right? And in the process of protecting it, I lost it, not to someone else, but I lost it within myself. I lost contact with that inside myself and had to go through the same process of reconnecting with that core self that I'd, well, really forgotten about, lost track of, as many of us do. And what a joyous moment to reconnect with that self and welcome it back into my body, welcome it back into my life, welcome it back into my everyday. And to begin to live more from that place rather than from my mental mind, rather than from my heart. You know, I think that over the last 20, 30 years, we've come a long ways. You'll hear people all around the world talk about, well, listen to your heart. And I think it's really important that we listen to our heart. But there's something beyond the heart. The heart is the big step towards something else. And that's our core self. That's our soul essence. That's the divinity within us that's full of great wisdom, lifetimes of great wisdom. And when we can contact this core self and bring it forward by going through our heart, by listening to our heart, we're a very, very different human being. I think we get indoctrinated early on to live from our mind, our thinking, rational, conscious, analytical mind. And for sure, we need that to function in this world. But I think we have it all backwards. I think we have it all upside down. I think we need to first connect with this soul being, this divine being, this higher consciousness that's within us, and then listen to our heart, follow our heart, and then use our great minds to figure out what to do with all that, how to live it, right? Rather than just listening to this mind that can easily misguide us. Listening to the heart's better, but I think from my own experience, my heart can misguide me too. But my soul self doesn't misguide me when I can reconnect with that consciousness. And so to go back to this fellow, for him to remember that there's much more to him than his pain or his drug addiction. There's much more to him than the lonely childhood he had. There's much more to him than the failed relationships that he's had. That there's actually something within him that is not less than. That there's something within him that is enough. Good enough, smart enough, wise enough, loving enough, okay enough. It's hard to think of yourself as less than. Even if you've had some experiences that made you feel that way, it's hard for you to think of yourself as less than. If you remember yourself, if you experience yourself as that divine being that you are. And then every day is a process of living that, of bringing that forward, of remembering that. Can I live in that state all the time, each and every day? No. But I sure know that it's there. And it guides me more and more each day. It guided me in writing the book. It guides me as I do this work. It guides me as I speak. It's not just from my mental mind. You know, Larry, the first time I stood at the National Guild and talked about body wisdom process, there I was after my whopping 3-day hypnosis training, speaking to my peers that had many more years of experience. I was scared. I was really scared. And my mind was spinning. My body was shaking. And here I'm standing in a room full of, I don't know, 50, 60, 75 people, you know, that all had more experience than me. And I learned, no, if I was coming from my mind, I had nothing to offer these people. If I came from my heart, I had something to offer them, right? But I was so scared. My heart was just really protected. I was frightened. I said, no, you know, even if they think you're a fool, even if they know more than you know, come from your heart. Then you have something to offer them. Then you have something to give. Then you have something to share. And so I think that's the first biggest step, is to get out of our minds and get into our hearts. But don't stop there. Keep going. Go all the way to your core self and live from there. And I think that when you get someone in your chair, take them there. Help them reconnect with that. Don't stop with their habits. Don't stop with their issues, their problems, whatever it might be. Keep going with them to reconnect with that core self and bring it forward. Yeah. If you guys have questions or something more.
Paul,
Mhm.
Paul, you have such great wisdom and insight, and it's just amazingly wonderful. And we are blessed that that you're here on the planet to help all these people. We're also blessed that you are here tonight with us and giving us this, sharing this wisdom. And boy, everybody here and everybody who knows somebody should go out and buy Paul's book. That's because it's all in there too, including the story about it. There we are. There's the book right there, Essential Healing. It also includes the story about getting hit by lightning, which was pretty extraordinary in itself.
I
Talk
don't
about
recommend
being
it.
in the wrong place at the wrong time. You don't recommend getting hit by lightning. Was your name Saul beforehand?
No. You know, in the book, there are about 50 practices. There are scripts in there for people to do their own work, but you can easily adapt those for sessions you're doing for other people. That's really why I wrote the book. I took 30 some years of my practice and the things I found myself doing over and over in different ways for people and put them together. That's why I called it Essential Healing or Essential Healings, is that I saw these more monumental or meaningful sessions that people had repeated with different people and said, okay, let me put this together and offer it to you as something that you can use in your practice and something that you can use for yourself, for your own personal growth and development. I'm a big fan of self-therapy, right? I want to give people these skills to do this for themselves rather than being dependent on someone. I know I can't do it all for myself, so I'll work with someone so I can do that. But really, you can take what's in there and incorporate that into your own sessions.
Thank you. Also, you teach. So share us what teachings you have. Any in the States? Are you all overseas right now?
We're all online now. I have a course coming up next week, the first basic hypnosis training. And we have people in that course from Australia. It's crazy time zones. People from Australia. We have people from Serbia. We have people from California. We have people from New York, people from Germany. So all around the world, one of the things that our missing contact with each other, being, like you said in the beginning, to be able to hug people, something that's happened from the pandemic is we had to move online to be able to provide our services, right? And although I miss traveling to all these countries and doing workshops, I'm seeing people all around the world now. This morning at a conference with someone from Malaysia, and another one from Australia, and one from Arizona. Crazy time sometimes, but we have a much broader reach with this. So yeah, I teach the hypnosis training that includes parts therapy. And then in October, I have the regression training. So we do childhood, womb, past life, and then from end of past life, looking back and reviewing life, meeting guides, this kind of work. I do workshops on this process, essential healing. Yeah, so and private sessions, of course.
And what would be your website that they could book into?
It's really complicated. paulaurand.com.
Ooh,
My name. Yeah.
that's tricky.
How about that?
Keep it simple. That's always good. Yeah. Well, if people have some questions.
Yeah, I'm really open to questions.
Paul, he knows everything, so just ask him whatever you want.
If I could ask technical or mechanical questions, could you give us more details of the methods you used with this young man? How did you meet him? Did he come to your office? What questions did you ask? How did you elicit a trance state? What more further questions did you ask, and what advice did you give? The actual just sort of surface mechanical, technical things that you did, if you care to share them.
Mm-hmm. Sure. He came to me by referral from someone else that knew he was struggling with drug addiction. And so he emailed me, and I answered him and scheduled. I usually book someone first time for an hour and a half, so I have enough time to do the interview and conduct a session. As I heard his story, of course, I make notes to see what some of the main issues are and some of the highlights, clarify specifically what it was he wanted to work on, because he has a lot of different issues, right? So I asked him really what was foremost for him, if he was going to work with me, what he most wanted to achieve. So we identified the issue we were going to begin with. You never know what's going to go. You have to be flexible with this. But he identified where he wanted to start. And because of his history of dissociation and numbing himself with medication, I began with presencing, having him be more present, because I found if I try to take him out and dissociate with hypnosis, often we're going to go into a kind of a void or something that's not so productive. So I did the opposite. I had him start to feel and be present in his body. And then, as I said, this is my induction often, is I have them observe their minds, right? So one of the two big things that I see happening in hypnosis is increased suggestibility, right? You learn that in your first part of your course. Subconscious mind can receive suggestions when you get analytical mind out of the way. But the other big one that I use even more than suggestion is becoming objective observer, higher perspective. And so I start that in the very beginning of the session without a lot of other falderall, is having him observe his thoughts. Just take some time to observe your thoughts. Notice what it is that you hear your mind saying, right? And he said, well, my mind's telling me what's going to happen. Can I do this successfully? Is this going to work? So he had these fears, these worries, these concerns. Usually when you have someone observe their mind, one of three things is going to happen. They're pleasantly surprised that their mind is suddenly quiet. That's the best. I love when that happens, right? And when you're not trying to shut it up or make it go away, that often happens. Just notice what it's saying. Oh, it's quiet. One of the other things that can happen is the mind is assisting them. It's saying, you can do this. And in his case, that's what it was. It was saying, you can do this. It's all right. Relax. I'd worked with him once before, so it was using the words I'd used in the beginning: relax, release, let go. Right? So his mind is the helpful mind. And the third possibility in listening to the mind is the mind has a concern. Can I do this? Will it work? I hear that noise outside. Am I going to feel too much pain? Something like that. And so if the mind has a concern, we'll address that. Right? I ask the mind what its concern is, and then you figure out something to do about that if it's addressable, right? Or you do what I did with him, and that was the dialogue with your mind. Thank it for protecting you. I think most times when there are these reluctant or resistant parts, the best thing that you can do is dialogue with it, thank it, acknowledge it, and it will most often soften. I see someone's clock ticking on the wall there. I think it's going to put me in trance. Joy's place. Sorry. So I don't know. I need a different picture. That's gonna.
It's almost 4, so.
Yeah, here it's almost 4. That's right.
Yeah.
So the trance induction was breathing, relax, release, let go, observe your thoughts, notice what it is you hear your mind saying. And then I moved him into feeling state. Bring your attention, consciousness, and awareness to the center of your chest, your heart center, the doorway to your inner world, and breathe and feel into it. What do you feel? I can't feel anything. It feels tense. It feels tight. I feel some anxiety, right? Well, if you could see this anxiety, if you could feel that tension, that tightness, I call it objectification. Okay? If it was an object, how would it look? It looks like a big gray brick. I didn't count. I didn't say deeper and deeper, right? But I moved him from thinking to feeling. And then I moved him in, dialogue with the brick, and then go into the feelings. That was really the technical pieces of the induction. I hope that answered your question.
That was very helpful.
Somebody else?
I have a friend who has similar addiction issues at the moment, and likes self-help books, but does not like trying to go to therapists. Would you recommend the processes in your book to somebody like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so in my initial contact with someone, and this is not to sell books, this is really to prepare them for the sessions. If someone will get my book, and they don't all do it, and there's not always time for them before I see them, but if they get my book and work with it, a lot of what I do with them, a lot of the practices in that book are what I'm going to do with them, and it prepares them. They've already done it themselves, and so there isn't this, oh, what's he going to do to me kind of thing. It's like, oh yeah, I know that. It feels familiar to them, and they've done some of their own work before I get to them. And so, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
I
what it was
encourage them to
sounding
do
like.
that. Mhm.
And I've heard good feedback too from a book about where your body stores the pain, and for some reason
Yeah.
the name is not, the exact name of the book is not coming out right now for me, but yeah, it
Your
has a bunch of,
body keeps the score.
yes, that, yes,
Yeah.
and it has a
Mhm.
bunch of processes too, and I've heard very good things for
Yeah.
for people
Mhm.
ready to start their work, but not ready for a therapist. So
Yeah. I did it as an audiobook as well.
oh, excellent.
And in the audiobook, there's a professional actor that reads the text. Because I'll tell you, that's quite a process to really read in a way that's interesting for people, right? but the practices I read and recorded. And so he'll read the text and then it comes to the practice and it's my voice,
Okay.
because the actor didn't get the pace, he wouldn't know the pacing or the tone that we need to use.
Yeah.
So I did that part. Yeah, so it's a really good combination of both.
That sounds wonderful.
That's audible. It's on Audible.
So everybody should get both.
Don, you're the best promoter. Hi, Larry.
Hi, how are you, Paul? So
Put
I
your
was,
hand back up there again, would you? Put your
going
hand
to,
up there again. Yeah.
okay, so I was going to comment that I was gifted to receive the book when it was first published. So thank you so much, Paul. And at that time, I was going through a journey of my own, and I might share with you.
Yeah, please.
I received many, many messages from you, and I want to thank you for that.
Mm.
And I do think about what Om just said about the body speaks your mind and the mind speaks the body. And all we need to do is listen, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of scan it, listen to it, and it'll tell us what to do next. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, Gary. Larry.
Yeah,
It's
thanks
such an
for-
important point. I think when I trained in hypnosis, I was trained to talk, right? Talk, patter, blah, 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 blah. I think back at some of the early sessions I conducted, me talking. And the fact is, I needed to learn how to listen. I needed to learn how to listen to the person sitting in my chair and not try to have all the answers, not try to give them advice, not just talk hypnosis, talk to them, but really listen. And yeah, taking it a step further, as you say, listening to ourselves, listening to our own body. What's my stomach telling me? What's my headache telling me? What's my leg telling me? What's my heart telling me? What's my soul telling me? It's really more about listening than talking. Another question?
Paul, there's only 3 audio books left and I just bought one.
Woohoo!
Now.
Great.
Thank
You say there's none left?
I went on Amazon, there's only 3 left. You better get some more then, because there's only 3 left and I just bought one. That's what
Oh,
it's-
there'll be more. Yeah, Audible, they'll do it. If not, I'll
it's
send you
the-
one.
It's a digital thing. There should be an unlimited amount.
No, it's an
Yeah.
audio CD.
Oh, it's
a
CD.
Oh,
Yeah,
CD version. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I like.
there's a downloadable one too.
Right, I saw that one as well.
Yeah, that's unlimited. Yeah, the CDs, I don't think they make so many of them.
No, but
I have some if somebody needs one.
Well, if there's no, I hate to say this, but if there's no other questions, maybe Paul needs to go and take the rest of the night off. He probably has a schedule today, don't you, Paul?
Yeah, not till later. Yeah,
Oh,
I
not
didn't
till
schedule.
later.
Yeah, my
So you
schedule
can-
is to go to sleep after this, but yeah, it doesn't have to be about the book, guys. If you have another question, I'm happy
Oh.
to share. You know. Deborah?
Okay, how do you get the audio book? It says that there's a membership trial. Is there a way I can just get the audio book without?
Audible. That's Audible. You don't have to do the membership trial. You can just order it from them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think
So-
you can skip past that and just buy the audio.
Okay,
They try to get you to sign up, to subscribe, but you don't have to. That's just their marketing technique. It has nothing to do with my book.
yeah, but I don't see where I have that opportunity. It says, Kindle, audiobook, paperback, audio CD. Now it just says, if I click on the audio, all it does is tell me to, it doesn't cost me anything for my trial. But if you buy with one click, that's it. You don't have to do anything, or is that the membership? I'm sorry.
You know, honestly, I don't know.
That.
Is
Is it through Amazon?
Yeah, it must be. Just go straight to Audible. Don't go through Amazon.
Just go straight to Audible. Okay, thanks. I'm going to take up your time. Go get some good sleep.
Yeah.
That's the best advice we can give him, is to sound like hypnotists now and say, Paul, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Yeah. Well,
So,
if that's it, yeah.
Remember paulaurand.com? That's an important thing. Link to that and you'll find out all the connections you need to find this man of the world. He teaches everyone all over. So it's great. We thank you, Paul. We thank all of you for coming to the second Tuesday Hypnosis group. We will meet again on the second Tuesday of October. We've been doing it forever. We're probably going to do it forevermore. And it's a good resource for everyone. Look how many people we have from all over the country, and we have one from Germany. So it's all good. Thank you again, Paul, and thank you
Thanks for
to all
having
of
me.
you.
Thank you.
Everybody be well, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
having me.
Thanks, Paul.
Larry will be talking to us and sharing with us.
Thanks, Don.